I saw a video of Mr. Rogers. I forget who he was talking to, but they asked the best parenting advice you can give to children, or maybe or maybe they asked like, "What's the best thing you can do for a child?" And he goes, "To remember what it's like for you to be a child." And I don't remember when I heard it was a few years ago, but it stuck with me. And now that I have kids, it's coming up a lot. I saw it again pop up the other day, and I was like, yeah. That is extremely profound. And the first thing I think about when I was a child is the the first thing that popped into my head. The very first thing was my parents were getting ready to go someplace, and they said I could bring 3 friends with me. Or they out of the 3 friends that were there, they said I could choose one friend. And I remember having, as a kid, this like visceral reaction, like, I can only choose one. I'm gonna let the other ones down. It felt painful that I had to choose. If I go back, I'm trying to remember, like, put into words these feelings, and it was like, I felt like I was hurting one of my friends. I felt like I was hurting 2 of my friends. I didn't want to hurt them. I didn't want them to feel hurt, and I was so sad. I was so excited to go wherever we were going, but at the same time I was so upset that I was hurting one of my friends. And that stuck with me. I was like 3 or maybe 4 years old, and if you haven't figured out yet, those friends were stuffed animals. And as an adult, you laugh a lot because you're like, yeah, it's just pick one toy. As a parent, just pick a toy, just one. You have so many toys, you can't bring them all. And although it's like, it's ridiculous, they're not alive, unless you believe Toy Story, which some of you maybe do, so I apologize if I ruined the illusion. But those feelings were real. I literally felt like I was hurting one of those stuffed animals that I couldn't choose. I was forced to choose one of my friends and leave the other 2 home. And I had all 3 in my hands ready to go. And obviously it affected me enough that when this Mr. Rogers quote came up, that's the first thing that popped into my head. And what's kind of strange about that is, or maybe beautiful about that, is Amelia wanted to bring her stuffed animals to bed, and she had 4 or 5 of them. Today she did it again, actually. She had a giraffe and 2 bunnies, and I think a doll was in there. So there was a collection, that she wasn't discriminating against animals and humans. But that thought came back to my head. I was as a parent, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have all these in the bed, and I'm gonna roll on them, and there's just so many. And as soon as I thought that, I had that flashback again of what it felt like to hurt one of my friends. And I didn't want her to experience that. So she's in bed now, and I'm going to go to bed after I record this, and there will be 5 stuffed animals in that bed. And I think that's part of what Mr. Rogers was saying, right? Remember what it was like to be a child, and because of that, it created this empathy in me and understanding of where she is psychologically, and how she sees the world. Maybe she sees these as friends too. And I wouldn't want to force a kid to choose between their friends. I wouldn't want to force anybody to choose between their friends, right? Like if you didn't catch on early enough, and I was talking about you had to choose one of your 3 friends to come with you while they're all standing there looking at you, waiting to see if they're going to be the one that's chosen. That would be screwed up and feel terrible if those are real human beings. So those emotions are real, right? And I do. I think about that a lot. I'm going to come back to this because I want to talk about a lot of remembering what it was like to be a child. But then I've been doing this on my runs lately. I'm listening to this new book called Atlas of the Heart by Brené Brown, where she talks about the language and emotions and giving them words. And a few things she's kind of talked about that's kind of wild in that book is she says when she goes and does these talks, she would have a survey and she would ask people how many emotions they could label, right? And the average person could only label 3 emotions. It was like anger, happiness, and sadness. and like, so 3 was the average emotions people could label, and that's insane. And she talked in there about if you limit the words, you're limiting your ability to communicate life, I guess. So like one example is she talked about the difference between let's do fear and dread. That's kind of a crazy one. So it kind of threw me for a loop a bit because everyone's like, yeah, I'm so scared all the time. I'm scared I have this job interview coming up. I'm scared of this test, school, this date I'm about to go on. There's like all these things people are scared of. But what the research shows is that fear is actually like that feeling you see when someone like jumps up behind you and grabs you, and it kind of shakes you, and you experience fear. You might see a spider, you see a snake, you experience fear. It doesn't last very long, like seconds. Fear only lasts seconds. That's crazy. So what you're really fearing is, or what you're really feeling is dread. Dread is this anticipation of something difficult and hard, and maybe you don't want to do it. And so that's a whole different word and different experience. So by having this language around these 2 words, you can communicate better that, oh, I'm feeling scared, I feel fear, or I'm feeling dread. And it's just kind of it's interesting. It kind of blows my mind. I'm going to go through a few more of these because they're kind of cool, but there was a difference between stress and overwhelm, and stress is something you can come out of. Like I think we all experience a heavy level of stress, but you're not burnt out. Overwhelm is when you're feeling burnt out. So when someone says I'm overwhelmed, or when someone is overwhelmed, they might be using it wrong, but when someone is overwhelmed, it's where there's a quote in there by John Kabat-Zinn, and he's amazing, by the way. He's the guy who got me into mindfulness. But he said, overwhelm is when your lives are unfolding faster than the nervous system and the psyche can handle. I'm going to say that one more time. So he said, overwhelm is when our lives are unfolding faster than the nervous system and the psyche can handle. So that's profound. So when you're feeling stress, like you can handle it. It's not comfortable, but you can handle it. But overwhelm is like, it's too much. You need a break. And if you've been listening to these podcasts the last few weeks, I think there was a heavy amount of stress that led to overwhelm. Obviously, it was just too much. And maybe I'm sounding better today. I feel a lot better today. But yeah, it's putting different words to these emotions. I'm trying to do better at feeling different emotions and labeling them too, so I can communicate them better, not just with myself, but I want to give my kids this gift of being able to label what they're feeling, because I never got that growing up. I don't think a lot of people do. It's just kind of wild. So anyways, if you are feeling overwhelmed, the best thing you can do is non-doing. Like, just stop doing things. like just be. B, do the things, I don't know, I'm saying do the things that fill your bucket, but you don't have to do anything to overcome that overwhelm. It can just, you can just sit and breathe. And in life, it might be unfolding faster, but let your nervous system and your psyche catch up. That's how they suggested that. Anxiety and excitement was another crazy one. So those two operate in the same space as your brain, right? They feel the same, anxiety and excitement. If you think about it, the parts of your brain and your body are activated in a very similar way. It's hard to distinguish the difference between them, but your perspective of what's going on it can have you operate very differently. So I talk to pole vaulters a lot, and if you're at a meet and you go, "Oh my gosh, I have anxiety," that can make it so the meet feels harder, right? Like it's like you have to climb out. You're running uphill, right? This is going to be harder. But if you switch it to, I'm feeling excitement, it makes it feel like you can tackle this thing, like you can versus you can't. And so just by a quick ask of, am I feeling anxiety or excitement? Or you can choose, this is excitement. It can change the way you interact with the feelings you're having, which changes the way you interact with the world. So you're feeling these things, you're thinking these things, and then your actions are different. It feels very much like cognitive behavioral therapy in a way, if anyone's familiar with that. But your thoughts, your feelings, and your emotions have this triangle, and they all interact together. And so that was another cool one. Can I do a few more? I'm gonna do a few more just because these are cool, and then I'm gonna go back to remember what it was like to be a child, and maybe share a couple stories there. Comparison was a weird one. So they were talking about how comparison's not an emotion, but it drives emotion, like when you compare yourself. And what was really eye-opening to me as I was listening to this was they were saying that you can't help it. It's automatic. It's in a part of your brain, and it just happens. So which was kind of mind-blowing, because for most of my life I've been hearing, quit comparing yourself to other people. Don't compare yourself to other people. Stay on your own path. And if it's automatic, you can't control that, right? Like, if you were to say, I am going to think really hard about trying to get my heart to stop beating for 30 seconds, you can't do it. This is not going to happen. It's an automatic response. So you have this automatic comparison thing, and people are trying to tell you, or you've been taught, or I've been taught my whole life, to quit comparing myself to other people, but it doesn't work that way. So what's really cool about that, though, is this goes back to the respond instead of react. So we might have this reaction to this comparison. We might catch ourselves doing it, but we get to choose. What our power is we get to choose how we respond to it. And that's pretty powerful. And I think that's pretty cool, actually. So keep that in mind. And then what else is kind of weird about this one is conformity versus competition. Like, comparison works on that level too. So on one hand, we want to conform. We want to be just like everybody else. But we're also wanting to compete with these other people, do something different. So this is where this like conflicting idea comes in, which makes comparison so painful in a way. It's like you want to fit in, but at the exact same time, you want to stand out. Like, it makes no sense. So comparisons, like, I'll use one more example. It's like, be like everybody else, but be better. And so I guess when we're feeling that way, go back. And I'm trying really hard to do this too, because I catch myself doing this all the time, especially after a run. I want to go look and see what everybody else is running and their times are, to see where I rank and where I'm in, because there's competitive part of me is still in there. And I think I just want to really compete against myself. I can't control what other people do. So that's a tough one for me. But I'm working on it. But that was pretty eye-opening too, that you can't control the comparison. It just happens automatically. And the last one, and I'm still working on this one too, is there's a difference between envy and jealousy. Envy is between two people, she was saying. So so usually if you have envy, it's like you see somebody with something you don't have, or you don't want someone to do something they don't have. It's you versus somebody else, or you versus an idea, or you versus something else. It might be status, it might be money, it might be a job, it might be, if we're talking pole vaulters, I don't know who's listening to these, but you could it could be someone else's PR or meet they got into. Jealousy is between usually 3 or more people, which is, again, interesting too, where I never even thought of envy. Jealousy was just all of those things. Oh, I was jealous this person had this. And in reality, you're envious that person has that, or gets, for me, I like experiences. So when I see someone get to do or experience something that I would like to experience, I always thought I was jealous, but it's actually envy I'm experiencing. Or right now, if I get to see somebody resting because they don't have kids, or they have more time, it appears they have more freedom, there's definitely envy there. I'm not a very jealous person, I've noticed. I thought I was in certain ways, but I guess it's envy. And so I'm explaining all these things because this book's been kind of fascinating, and it's putting different words into my vocabulary about these things I'm feeling. And in doing so, I'm able to kind of separate some of these emotions a little bit and understand what's really there. Because the stress one's been a big one. It's like, I'm so stressed. And then it was either stressed or burnt out. And then overwhelm is very much like burnt out to me. But I love the idea of our lives are unfolding faster than the nervous system and psyche can handle. It's pretty crazy. And so because of these books, or because of this book and understanding emotions, it's interesting that when I go back to that story of remembering what it was like to be a child, I had these big emotions, with those stuffed animals that I couldn't bring with me. And there was a lot of little stuff like that, in life. and I could never talk about it. Like, okay, so remembering what it was like to be a child, another thing that popped up, and this is ridiculous, but I remember middle school, you would get a boner, right? You're going through puberty, and you would put your book in front of your pants while you were walking to class, because you know what? That's the best way to hide a boner, if you're doing that. And one day I realized there was a lot of kids keeping their books in front of their pants, but you thought you were the only one. I don't know why that one popped up into my brain too. I'm not going to have to tell Amelia that one, but I will have to maybe help Luke with that. Like, hey, if you're feeling weird about this, just look at all the other people doing the same thing, Maybe it'll help him not feel so weird about it. Another thing that was kind of cool that happened, though, that when I think about what it was like to be a kid, this one really affected me, though. We went to an apple orchard, and they had all sorts of cool stuff there. They had like a jumpy bag we could all jump on and do flips on. I don't think we were supposed to do flips, but I did flips on it. They had like a big slide that could go down. They had a corn pool. They had like a pool, multiple pools just full of like dry corn. And that was maybe my favorite. They had like little tractor pulls, and they had like ropes courses, and they had a corn maze, like all sorts of stuff. And we get there, and Amelia wants to go straight to the park, right? And in Carrie and I's head, and I can't speak for Carrie, but for me, I was like, there's parks everywhere. We can go to a park, but look at all this other stuff stuff. And she was so excited to go to the park. She just wanted to climb up the slides. She wanted to go up the ladder, climb down the slide. She wanted to like explore the entire thing, go on the swings, just do it all. And I caught myself, remember what it's like to be a child, not trying to take her away from just being in that moment of awe and wonder of this new thing in this curiously exploring this slide, this park, this fun thing, letting her play there, even though everything in me was like, look at all this other cool shit that maybe I can go play into. I want to check it out. I want to see what else there is. This is just a park. And then I realized that was all just about me. But when I sat in it and I was like, oh, what is she experiencing right now? It changed my relationship with that moment. And she played, and eventually she wanted to go to the other things, and lo and behold, we had a lot of fun in the corn pool. That was her favorite. And I'm still picking corn out of orifices later today. And I had a similar thing at the I took her to the skate park for the first time and just brought a little like Strider bike with her and her cousin. And it was getting hot. We were there for like 2 hours and it was like ready to leave. And she did not want to leave. And it was just, again, this little reminder, remember what it was like. Remember what it was like to be a child. I remember being that kid, just having so much fun, whether it was like at a pool, at a park, at like a friend's house. I would have friends come over and we would run into the cornfield just to get 15 more minutes of hanging out together. And she didn't want to leave either. She did not want to leave that skate park. If there was a cornfield, she probably would have ran into it too. And it made me just like pause for a moment and let her play a little bit longer. And we had to leave, and it was hard, and she was fighting it a little bit. But I didn't get as reactive. I was just like, I get it. I totally get it. We have to get some food in you because it's hot out. and you drank all your water. So there's this like a lot of really like cool stuff like that. Like that whole idea has kind of changed this week for me. And there was some bad stuff that happened too, that came up in my head. Like I got yelled at for being a kid, as a kid. Like there's this one pops up a bit. I remember asking my, there was like a book fair and my mom gave us like $10 or something. We could go get whatever books we wanted. And there was a poster of a Lamborghini Diablo, a yellow one, on all their sold posters too. And I was like, Mom, can I get this poster? And she said no. And I was like, So I asked Dad, I was like, hey Dad, can I get this poster? It's only $5 of my $10. He's like, no, you can't do it. And just like any typical kid, I had to be in like second grade or something, maybe first grade. I just kept asking and 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 asking. And they were getting frustrated. And they were talking, to each other, and they were doing things. And I would still ask. And, man, I wore him down. My dad said yes. So I stopped asking. I was super excited. I went to school the next day with my $10. I got my $5 Lamborghini Diablo poster, and then I got a couple books with my $5. And then when I got home, I got yelled at. They said, I told you couldn't get that poster. And it hurt. It fucking hurt. Hurt to the point where I'm in my mid-30s, late 30s, and I'm still thinking about it. Because they did say yes. My dad said yes at one point. He changed his mind. And which is weird, because what probably happened is what happens with Amelia. She asked the same thing 100 times, and she asked it so much you stop kind of paying attention, right? And you might just say the wrong thing once. And if you say the thing that she wants to hear, she stops asking, and it all stops. But you might not realize what you did. And that happened this week too. It's been a week. And but because again, I remember what it was like to be a child. I remember this moment. I'm the one who had the screw up, and I was aware of it, and so I didn't yell. I mean, I didn't. There's no way I was gonna yell at her for that. I mean, she did the thing. I said the thing, and she didn't disobey or anything. She's 2 anyways, but it was another one of those things. The last, the last thing I'll share is this one's been hard. I don't really know how to navigate this yet, but Amelia loves our dog Aria and has been picking her up for the last year since she was 1, carrying her all over the place. Now she's putting her on her shoulder, and I bring Luke up. He's like 4 months old, up to the sky, and I kind of, bring him down, and he laughs and laughs and laughs and laughs. So Amelia's been doing that to Ari. But Ari's kind of wiggly and squirmy, and so we're like, you're going to drop this dog, and she's going to break her legs and hurt her head. But she doesn't know that. All Amelia knows is that she loves this dog more than anything in the world. And she loves the dog so much that Amelia also likes jumping off the arm of the couch onto the couch, and she wants Ari to do that with her. So no matter how many times we tell her not to, I try to think about what it was like to be like that when I was a kid. And I can't, right? I can't remember 2 years old. But I remember like being in play a bunch of times where you just kind of forget everything and you're just in the moment. You're just grabbing things. You're just reacting, and all you can focus on is this play. And I see her doing it. And so all I've been able to do is have to just remove the dog from the situation to try and protect this poor dog. Even though, this 2-year-old just wants to have adventures with her friend at this point. So I don't know if any of this is making any sense. I've just it's been a week, and that skate park thing was good. My sister-in-law came over with her 2 sons, and that's when we went to the skate park, and it was good. It was just good to kind of have some other people here and shake up the routine. I don't really like routines. They kind of hurt my brain. And so what we've been talking about the last couple of weeks of trying to ask for some help and do some other things, that was a good one. So, and on top of that, Arlo people kept saying he doesn't have any fear. He's going to the top of these ramps. It's his first time there, and he just took his Strider bike and was just hucking it, dude. And he did so good. I was so jacked and proud of him. It was so fun to watch, and he didn't want to leave either. But what people don't tell you is if a kid doesn't have fear, it's because their parents or people watching them is holding all of that for them. Because I had more fear watching that kid go to the highest ramp at the skate park and Strider biking it down than I would have ever had going off. And I've jumped out of airplanes and stuff. Like, it paled in comparison. But you kind of want the kid to play. You want him to go and just see what he can do. And it's pretty cool. So, yeah. I guess I'll end with, remember what it was like to be a child. Maybe even if you don't have a child, just like think about it. Think about what that was like to you. Maybe let me know. I know if you made it this far, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about what it was like to be a child? And check out the Brené Brown book. It's called Atlas of the Heart. It talks about all these different emotions, and I'm maybe about a third of the way through it. And I've been listening. Like I said, I've been listening to it on my runs. Then I come home, and I have the ebook version too, and then I go and highlight a bunch of stuff. And I have the hard copy version because I'm a loser. So it's been kind of fascinating trying to just navigate these new things. And I've been debating if I even share this with you, but one thing I don't share with a lot of people is, and maybe you've noticed it from just listening to me or videos I make, but I have been trying to find the meaning of life my entire life, and the people who seem to do that the most are philosophers. So I try and read a lot of philosophy books. And there's a cool one that I heard today, or not today, maybe it was a couple days ago, but Epicurus says, "Do not spoil what you have by desiring what you have not. Remember that what you now have was once among the things that you only hoped." And that was just a good reminder. Because if I think back, as stressed and crazy as life's been lately, if I think back even 10 years, and I look around out of where I am in life, I know I'm constantly trying to move forward and grow, and sometimes it's good to look back to see where and who you were, and then where and who you are now. And a lot of everything that's surrounding me right now is stuff I only wish I could have had. And some of the things that seem to be slipping away right now, hopefully I can find a way to reach out and keep them close. Which is why these podcasts are kind of here. So, yeah, thanks for listening to me, guys. I'm gonna keep trying to do these every week. With that said, remember, life's meant to be experienced, and curiosity will get you there. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.